Welcome to H2EG Backstage. I'm your host, Moke Wallace, and today we have Scott Eiseman with me. Scott, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Nice to meet you, Moke. Hello,
nice
everyone.
Nice to meet you too, sir. Now, just a little background. Scott, you are the owner of 512 Now.
That is correct.
The founding president of Judaism United. Mm-hmm. Is it JudaismUnited.com?
JudaismUnited.com. That is correct. Yeah.
And you also founded Red Ocean Ventures.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you about Judaism.com. JudaismUnited.com.
Yeah.
Give me a little background on that.
Okay, so that started out as basically a social unification of our religion. What I found out just beginning in Judaism when I was younger is that there's a lot of segmentation in our religion. And what I found in studying other religions as well, that holds true with other religions. It's a constant theme across most religious foundations and basis points. And starting in 2012, there was a weekend called Chosen Weekend that I was proud to be a part of. It was here in Austin, Texas. Samantha Tugetman and her board basically put something together that brought, I think it was 16 different states or 16 cities in 12 different states that it brought together in one weekend to celebrate basically the social aspect of Judaism. Getting people together, indulging in maybe some nice adult beverages, meeting the people that they hadn't otherwise met due to geographic barriers and other barriers.
Yeah. Where was this? Where'd you hold this at?
So it basically, the weekend looked like this. There was 4 or 5 different events all rolled up in the same weekend.
Okay.
So we had like what we would call a Shabbat dinner to those of a Judaic background on a Friday night. Then we'd have like a Friday night party on Dirty Six, more or less, 6th Street in Austin, Texas. A Saturday day party, a Saturday night party, and then a Sunday brunch. And what I began to understand about the Chosen Weekend and Chosen Weekend in general was, as I was saying earlier, it broke down geographic barriers. People were making introductions and relationships that otherwise seemed impossible. Otherwise, they would not have met. There were resulting marriages, there were resulting relationships, men and women united. I mean, it was fantastic. And the culture and community around it.
Yeah.
And I said that if something were to happen to this weekend, in general, we need to make sure and replicate these types of things for our religion and perhaps other religions as well, and bring people together.
So this weekend, this happened before you founded the company?
Correct. So this weekend lasted until about 2015. And basically Samantha and a couple of the board members had moved, a couple to New York, one to California, and spread out the segmentation of their own board. And it was in 2015 that I said, hey, we've got to insert this into Austin again. We need this back for our religion. We need this back for other religions. Enter Birth Judaism United. It took about 2 to 3 years to get like-minded individuals and collaborate. And we'll talk again about Red Ocean and some of the sponsors I brought to the table that made it possible. But we're able to do that in 2019.
That is impressive. Let me just say, that's impressive. So when you said, hey, I want to start this organization, and you've already networked with some people, so was it easy to start, or did you have to kind of get it from the mud and take some L's here and there, or was it just everybody was on board?
It's funny you mentioned that. We actually started something in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where I'm from, as you know. And what we decided was we would start in Memphis, where we had a better foundation. We knew a collaborative effort, potential board members already, everything was provided. Unfortunately, due to a variety of variables, it was not successful in Memphis. But due to some of the lessons that I learned, and I'm a big advocate of things like failures becoming lessons for the future versus something that should detract you from your overall goal. I took a lot of those lessons and the relationships that I formed through other means like Red Ocean Ventures. I continued to do the things that made me successful and that brought joy to my life, and that's bringing joy into success to others and being parts of other boards and volunteering for organizations like Chabad and Hillel and other Judaic background organizations, Special Olympics bowling and things of that sort. And I was able to develop and kind of center around like-minded individuals. And from that and some of the other previous relationships I had with things like sponsors and Himador and Herodora, Dolce Vita, it became about a 3 to 4 year process to develop all of that, establish the board of like-minded individuals that would be able to execute. Something that Gary Vaynerchuk talks about a lot is execution. A lot of people have ideas, right? But to gather the right people around you, to have the right relationship you form, and then to execute those things. It takes time, and oftentimes you're going to learn a lot of lessons along the way. That's why it took about 3 to 4 years to do.
Okay, so answer me this. Why do you think it was more successful in Austin than it was in Memphis?
There were a variety of variables. I think inherently Austin is a much better location, entertainment-wise, and especially with the up-and-coming, the tech booms and the recent migration from California. And I think even in school, we had an estimation of 150 people moving here every day. So I know that was part of it. Austin being a central location geographically had to play a role in that. I mean, you got hubs in Houston and Dallas. You need to travel there and then drive a ride to get to here. And then in Memphis, what had happened too was there were some local variables, like we lost local support.
So were you living in Austin when you started in Memphis?
So I was one of the founding members of Bluff City Bash in Memphis, but what my actual role with that was to develop a marketing strategy around getting those from the outlying areas of Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, Little Rock.
But were you in Austin?
I was in Austin at the time.
Yeah. So why not start off in Austin instead of Memphis? Because you were already here.
Well, so Austin had Chosen Weekend, and I knew that all of the things that I was mentioning earlier about the collaboration, the like-minded individuals, establishing a board, things that my experience had yielded were needed in this case,
right?
Versus those that were already established in Memphis, and to where I could play an incendiary role of the marketing aspect, I felt more comfortable doing that.
So it was already established in Memphis a bit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
The supply chain channels were already pretty much there, and it was just a matter of turning it on. Yeah.
And so that was what year did you become like a part and started doing your thing in it?
So Bluff City Bash was around 2015.
Okay.
Which was the last year, conveniently, that I think Chosen Weekend was in Austin.
So 6 years, right? And you started, I don't want to call it success, but I'm going to call it success because I can't pick a better word. So you started seeing your success from this. Do you start branching out to other states and cities, or do you just kind of keep the focus where the success is at and plant seeds to other people and hopefully that they can grow where they're at?
You know, Moke, that's a great question. And what we see today, and especially with things like the .com era, our businesses are expanding and cannibalizing themselves way too quickly. And they're losing their resources in the supply chain. And so obviously COVID hit and decimated us, and we had some serious momentum going into 2019. Right. As you heard, there was a lot of strategy behind, you know, who the people were our biggest advocates, how long we waited to establish Judaism United, and L'Chaim City Limits, which was the weekend we started in 2019.
Wait, you said the what? L'Chaim City Limits?
It's called L'Chaim City Limits.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Do y'all treat it like ACL?
Very similar, but only in aspects of things like the ticket sales, some of the sponsorship requests, which, as you heard me say earlier, things like Topo Chico, and Red Bull, and Humidor, and Austin Eastsiders were able to garner. And then we do have a weekend pass for L'Chaim City Limits. Wow. And then you can also buy a la carte, just like ACL. Yeah, so you can kind of mix and match whether you want to go the whole weekend, or if you're maybe based in Austin, you just want to attend a Saturday night party.
Is there performances?
You know, TBD on that. One of the questions today was, are we allowed to basically envelop or mention some of the things that we have in the future? TBD on that, actually, Moke. But at least as of now, we haven't had any live performances.
Fair.
Yeah.
Red Ocean Ventures. Explain it to me.
Yeah, so Red Ocean Ventures started in 2009. And ironically, I had some friends that were based in Bloomington, Indiana, go Hoosiers, as they would like me to say. And they basically were more or less, a good way to put it in colloquial terms, was 3-6 Mafia's road managers. And they had basically given me a connection. They do Little 500 in Indiana for everyone that's familiar with that. And basically what that is, just a weekend of parties and get-togethers and social functions. And they had brought 3-6 Mafia there.
Because they're from Memphis.
Right, exactly. My friends are from Memphis. Yeah. They brought a new dynamic. They had a parking lot concert. So all that was able to be done a year prior to Red Ocean being formed. And so we wanted to take advantage of those resources and that supply chain they had developed.
Right.
And we wanted to bring that to Austin. Yeah. Yeah. And thus birthed Red Ocean Ventures, which at the same time, there were several production and promotion companies that people might be familiar with in Austin. Score More Productions was developed around there, right? Sasha Goodfriend.
Yep.
Omar Dawood, right? After Dark, which is now in San Marcos at the Mark, a really big venue. Congrats to all of his success. And then real music events, which is more your EDM side with Andrew Parsons. So all of these were formed basically the same year, within the same few years. And so really this movement became involved. And I thought that a good way to capture that while also giving, I was in a fraternity, Zeta Beta Tau, giving us, our trademark was giving everyone the experience we could deserve and we deserved. I was able to bring in my connections to kind of benefit everyone that was around me. And that became evident in the product that we were forming, which was a 3-6 Mafia and Gorilla Zoe concert, which was hosted in March of 2009 at Austin Music Hall. That same year, we ended up actually bringing Wiz Khalifa to Ace's Lounge, and then we also brought Gorilla Zoe in December.
What made you pick those artists? I mean, I understand 3-6 Mafia, but Gorilla Zoe and Wiz Khalifa, because I could see Wiz, because Wiz started blowing up like around that time.
Yeah, everyone remember the verbiage and lyrics to Say Yeah, right? That was one of the...
I listen to that song at least once a week. Like I do.
This was pre-Black and Yellow though, so... Right, so his popularity was definitely questionable, but the marketing demographics that we did the analysis on yielded he appealed to the crowd that we were targeting.
Right. Yeah. So y'all were going towards the more college-y crowd?
Yep, the more college-y, the more, let's call it like urban-y type feel and more cultural, more, let's call it hip, if you will. Definitely the 20 to 29-year-olds, collegiate, maybe still at University of Texas, St. Edwards, various demographics. And we thought that given that the price point that we were getting through my friends, of course, from Memphis, that we could make that happen with the overhead that we had. Yeah.
So what's the main goal of Red Ocean Ventures?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what was the original goal, right? Which
Right.
typically can definitely change and alter, right? And that's couldn't have been more evident with Red Ocean Ventures. Red Ocean started with a production and promotion company, and we would own every aspect of the promotion and production. So when I say that, I mean like everything from social media events on Facebook and even my page at the time was still in discussions, to YouTube and some sort of voice around that, to ticketing websites and brokering, to the actual production itself with soundstage lighting, and anything that was involved in that, like the artist writer. Yeah. Now, what's evolved from that is what I began to realize is that if I can continue some of the established relationships that I mentioned with some of these multi-billion-dollar brands, it's going to give me the foundation and the flexibility to take those relationships into other aspects of my life. And as you heard me say, that couldn't have been more evident in Judaism United, and that became. And why Red Ocean is still active today, that became the actual goal.
Everything is just hand in hand. Okay, so you're excelling, Judaism United, Red Ocean Venture. You're this guy in town doing your thing. So what would you say is your biggest accomplishment with Red Ocean Venture?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest accomplishments, it was most certainly an aha moment. And it was almost like a justification that, as I was mentioning earlier, one of the big foundational elements of Red Ocean that actually became the true goal of what it is now, and being able to benefit these bigger brands and establish these relationships with peers and with certain advertisements and brands and bring everything together was the Dave Chappelle, Erykah Badu, and Snoop Dogg Juke Joint. Okay. And it was quite the blast. And yeah, I still remember it was a Sunday night, and friends of mine had introduced me to a girl who was awesome, and we hit it off. We were talking a little bit, and it was the next morning, and she goes, "Hey, it sounds like you're doing a lot of the things that we need." And I was like, we need, can you kind of catch me up to speed on what you mean by that, and what aspect of Red Ocean, or this was pre-Judaism United, pre-512 now. So I was trying to get caught up on where she was at in her knowledge base. And she said, "I tell you what, we're going to be at Wu Chow at 7:30 p.m. There's going to be some key players there that I think you should try to attend." And you better believe I was there. And I remember pulling up, and I sat down at the table, and I remember CK, who owns Wu Chow, Swift's Attic, and Native Hostel. Great guy. If you don't know him, was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. Just an Austin legend. Can't speak high enough about him. But I remember sitting down, and I had already met him through previous correspondences. I said, "Okay, what's going on here?" And sure enough, there's the person that I met the night before. And then I had met Carla Sims, who was actually Dave Chappelle's manager. And she was a little flustered throughout the dinner. You know, I won't lie, Moke. And some of the confusion that she had. And I kind of asked, you know, is everything okay? You know, is there anything we need to elaborate on? I was brought here for a specific reason,
Right.
Apparently, unbeknownst to me what that reason is.
Right.
And she goes, well, we've got Snoop Dogg coming to town. We've got Erykah Badu. Dave Chappelle wants to do a juke joint with them. We want that to happen on Friday.
Now, before you go into that, when you hear this lady drop these names, how does that make you feel? Like, do you realize what you just walked into?
You know, they always say that a lot of these things hit you in the future.
Yeah.
And I will say that the excitement was kind of justified right then and there from what was said to me the night before. But as with like the whole scope of what was about to happen, I had no clue.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, so like walk me through this, because Snoop Dogg, Dave Chappelle, Erykah Badu.
Oh yeah.
Walk me through that, please.
Yeah,
sir.
the ride was just beginning.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And because I'm sitting there, you know, you got 4 days. I mean, we've got till Friday. We want a production. We're probably need transportation. We're going to need a venue. We need to bring in the sponsors that I have.
So that they already, like, you already just signed up for it.
I mean, more or less, I was volunteered indefinitely. Yeah.
That's a good volunteer.
I guess. I mean, to this day, it was mostly a volunteer effort that I gave them. And I'm still just so thankful to have been a part. You know, thanks Carla and Dave and all the key players there for including me.
Did you meet these people?
Yeah, I met Dave. I've got a couple pictures on my phone with us meeting backstage. That's when he did the ACL Live for like 9 different shows.
Wow.
And Carla was like, yeah, I want to make sure we have you out to meet Dave and shake his hand. And I remember turning to him. I don't want to jump too far ahead of the story, but I remember turning to him and said, hey, man, we're going to kill this for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to make sure and kill this for you.
What was his vibe like?
He was a good guy. I mean, speaking of humble,
Yeah.
which has been one of the themes for tonight. I mean, I just got really good vibes from him, that he wanted to be an active participant, that he didn't really know who I was, and I
Right.
respected his boundaries. But whoever this guy was and what he was about to do, I respect what he's here to do. And yeah, was super open. And you wouldn't know that he's essentially birthed or rebirthed stand-up comedy. I just never got that vibe from him. A super down-to-earth guy.
And what year is this?
This is 2017.
So this isn't too far back.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got to put that notch under you. How did it feel to be able to put that notch under your belt? Because did you have anything as big prior to this?
Besides 3-6 Mafia, Gorilla Zoe, Wiz Khalifa, we then brought back 3-6 Mafia to Republic Live in 2011, and then we did a Paul Van Dyke show at the Zook in Dallas. You know, this would follow suit, but nothing has really come together like that. Yeah, in essence of coming together in 4 days with the aha moment of having that short a timeline with bringing in my established network.
So now you were invited to help out with something with some keynote players and things like that at Wu Chow. So you go to Wu Chow. Now walk me through that experience at Wu Chow.
Yeah, so I get there, and as I was mentioning earlier, Carla Sims, the manager, seemed a little flustered and was super cordial, awesome person. But I could tell that something was on her mind that she needed to get off her chest. You know, you get that feeling sometimes from certain people and the energy they're giving off. And that's when we kind of went down the trail of, hey, all these key players are coming in town, Snoop, Erykah, Dave, who of course was already there. And that within 4 days, they wanted to bring everyone together in some sort of big event production. And I remember asking some questions as to whether they had, you know, a venue lined up or any sponsors, or we're going to sell tickets to Acclaim the Overhead or Reclaim the Overhead. And when all of those answers were no, I just realized the type of situation that they were in. And I remember she goes, one of the questions she then asked me was along the lines of, so what can you do?
Right.
And I turned to her and I just said one thing, and I go, all of it.
Oh,
and it was just one of those big, like I was saying earlier, this big aha moment that was saying, you know, you always want to say that everything led you to where you're at now.
Right.
And that's what had happened. And I remember walking out of Wu Chow, and one of the first calls was to David Poku of Austin's Party Scene, who now runs ATX Food Truck Festival. And I'm like, hey man, you got sponsorship ties to LVMH, right? from Louis to Hennessy and Moet. I was like, we need those sponsors to come in here. I know you've got Dolce Vita, an infamous brewery. I then made a call to my Tito's rep. I made a call to Herradura, and then another call to another sponsor, Austin Eastsiders. And I was like, this is starting to really happen. Now, during the course of this, what I realized I can't miss a call. I can't miss an email.
Right.
That means could mean millions of dollars of impact, could mean this production doesn't happen. I mean, if there's no liquor at this production, then we could have a serious issue, a venue even more so. One of my friends knew Lucky, Willie Nelson's son, and I said, well, this is a perfect opportunity. No venue in Austin in 2017 is going to be open from 4 days from now. They've had that booked for 3 months.
Yeah.
But the Luck Ranch is probably not booked. And David Poku, don't you know, Chariot Transportation. And so I got Chariot on the line. We secured transportation. My friend called Luck and the Luck Reunion, where that takes place. Basically got the venue under wraps. I did some things that week that I don't necessarily take pride in, other than the fact that the production happened and everything came together, and we made it work.
Yeah.
All the sponsors, the venue, the Chariot Transportation came in, and it became quite the production. Yeah.
So throughout this whole debacle, when were you like, because I'm pretty sure you were stressed out. You probably were happy for the opportunity, but then with great opportunity becomes a lot of stress. So when were you able to really sit down and relax and be like, I'm doing this and I did this?
It definitely wasn't until, to your point, till after the week. And I remember the night of the production, as we know from most comedic performances, they make you put your phone in pouches. And I said, nope, my phone's not going anywhere near a pouch. You might have to escort me off the premises. I was allowed one of 3 people, and that's why I have some of the pictures that I have. But I was allowed to keep my phone.
Wow.
And even then, there were some calls done with some of the transportational aspects. And one of the brands wanted a picture with Chappelle with one of their Añejo bottles, and things that just frankly couldn't be missed at the time. But I believe it was pretty much a go type, a fight or flight until at least a few days after the event, and definitely after breakdown.
I would be stressed out. I would be stressed out.
It wasn't a lack of stress situation, that's for sure.
but I mean, I guess it's a different stress because it's for a greater good, and it's for a bigger, because if it was just me doing like some local guy that's whatever, I would be like, I'm done with this. But once you know that this is a once in a lifetime chance and you just happen to be in the right place at the right time for somebody to say, hey,
yep,
you do everything we need. Can you please come? Did they pay you?
They did not pay me.
Did you want payment? Did you care for payment?
The only thing came in where I found out that they actually did start selling tickets. And, I don't exactly know where those financials went. There's no harsh feelings at all. I'd like to believe those went to some sort of charitable organization, or maybe repayment for Dave, or some of the travel that was incurred in the costs. But that was really the only. Other than that, you brought up a good point. We started winning with some of the big name brands that got behind us pretty early on, and each win that we got brought us one step forward, and that was the win for me. Yeah.
So you're winning. You're winning. Success. 5-2 now.
Yeah.
Does it make it easier? Because now people say this guy's a big shot. He got Dave here. He made it run smooth. Snoop, Erica. Or did you feel like you had to start over?
So that's a good question. So basically for my day job, I'm in technology. I spent 5.5 years at Apple, 4 years at Verizon. And what I understood was software, websites, any sort of coding backend. It's starting from square one very much. You might have this idea, and again, that idea can take multiple turns.
Right.
But especially when you enter in the world of software, you're in a whole nother ball game. And so it was very much like beginning with square one with a lot of that. Some of the same connections that I utilized for some of my past lives really came in clutch for 512 now. So
do you think the software or the tech situation where you work, do you think it was better back then? Do you think it's better now, since Austin is the Silicon Valley of Texas?
Yeah, so when I was working at Apple, I mean, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Google, we didn't have one of the Amazon HQs. We did have 3M, Intel, Charles Schwab, some of the things you might not necessarily think about Charles Schwab being in tech, but they most certainly are. So we had some of the foundational elements of that. But you're right, having the amount of talent pool here in Austin and working with some of the most bright-minded individuals in the entire world has really aided. Our developer for 512 now, who's also developed some of the key things without going into too much detail that we use on a daily basis, being able to work with people like that, Musa Salajmani. One of the things that he's developed is what's called Tensor Social. And what this does is it analyzes specific likes and followers from your social media, analyzes their geographic location, analyze whether they're real or fake followers, their type of engagement. And these are the people that I'm working with, are people such as him. Yeah.
So I'm kind of speechless on that. I'm not even gonna lie. But so what made you say, hey, I'm gonna stick in Texas and do this and not go to California?
Yeah, so kind of the reasoning behind 512 now was exactly right. So what I started finding through my events were there were some obstacles to promotion. And me being the marketer that I am, well, if you have obstacles to getting your name out, then you have true obstacles for the entire event.
Right.
And getting attendance and sponsorships and any financial means to accrue back your overhead. So I started realizing that besides going through things like Do 512 or Austin Eater, I needed my own channel for promotion and marketing.
Right.
And thus birthed 512 now, if it was economically feasible. And with someone like Musa, it became that.
Right.
And then I said, I can take this to a whole nother level. And what I can do is ATX Food Truck Festival. My good friend David Poku, I mentioned earlier, who also does the New Year's Eve Masquerade Ball. I can publicize some of him. I can also take in what 512 now also became was an online magazine with people from Austin. One of my friends, Oscar Guzman, who's also one of my partners in 512 now, wrote an article about a single dad in Austin and some of the things he does with his younger son at the time.
Wow.
Another one of my friends wrote, because Austin and the economy and the cost of living is going up, right? Yeah. He wrote Living in Austin on $5 a day. And so it became a way and a voice for those that were my friends and colleagues, and a medium that they could do to show other Austinites some of the things they were doing, especially people that were moving here.
Wow, yo, because I know a lot of people who are like on the east side and who are just straight up Austinites, you know what I mean? And they talk about things like that, about the I don't want to say gentrification, but just people from Cali moving here, and what we look at as an expense to them is that's their lower middle class. You know what I mean? So that is very impressive, because you never hear about the people who put themselves in the same shoes as the working class person who may not have the degree, or who may be lower than middle class, or who may be living somewhere good, but now the rent's going up. So that, 100%.
Wow. The middle class is the foundation of the U.S. economy.
So, and
what better way to give someone a voice, right?
I'm not trying to go at any other Austin page, but so your site isn't just a event site.
Correct. In fact, that's one of the lower hanging fruit of what the site offers.
Wow.
The site is mainly meant to forecast those that live and breathe Austin and would like a voice into some of the things they experience on a daily basis.
So with the success off of 512 now, was it your idea to touch every bracket of Austin, or did you just kind of go in wanting to touch specific groups and just let it filter out, or this was your master plan? So,
and just like Red Ocean, what I had originally thought was my goal of 512 now, which was to showcase my events, but also I'm incredibly fortunate. All the people that I met in technology at Apple and Verizon, all the people in Austin supporting H2EG, for example, and why I'm here today, to Droid, who's an incredible artist, to working with Summit and Vulcan and some of the bigger venues here. I knew that these people had something special here in Austin, and I wanted to give them a voice. And that's what 512 now basically became. And I said, well, let's find a way to not only take that voice, but in the future, some of the things, and I can drop a little bit of a teaser here, is maybe, and we'll talk about some of the Jake Paul and Logan Paul exploits here in a minute, but maybe there's a way to induce some sort of viral marketing campaign and some through streaming platforms. Maybe there's a way to give like a minute or 2 minute news segment that is by the people for the people. Maybe there's some way to give some sort of marketing content that's not vested or filtered or specific to any audience. Let's make it specific to Austin.
Wow. So I noticed you mentioned Jake Paul and Logan Paul, and I know they've been in the news lately with the whole boxing thing, but I know you do Red Ocean Ventures, 512 Now. You seem to be, in my eyes, be a promotional guru. Do you think these guys are going the proper route of promoting themselves as boxers, or do you think it's hurting the sport of boxing the way they're going about? Because I don't watch a lot of boxing, but I know boxers aren't fighting every other month. And these guys are fighting every other month for a pretty good, decent bag.
They appear to have changed the game, haven't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
But they're fighting everybody who's not boxers.
Right.
Yeah, how you gonna fight Nate Robinson?
Yeah.
Man? Come on.
Hey, Crypto Nate, shout out. But, that was an interesting fight for sure.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I mean, you know what I'll say to that, and I know that some of the boxing community, for example, and those that have lived and breathed the sport, I'm not one of those. Just to be completely transparent and humble. And I wouldn't say I'm the newest to the sport. Definitely not on board with the most recent endeavors in terms of being the start of my boxing and incisiveness into boxing. But what I will say is, to me, I think that it's actually good for the sport. Okay. And I'll kind of unpeel that onion, if you will.
Go for it.
Mo. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people say, any publicity is good publicity. Yeah. Now, the way that I take that statement, and especially in relation to Jake and Logan Paul and some of the things they've done with Mayweather and some of the future things they plan to do, even Crypto Nate, boxing's got a real opportunity here.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are part of Gen Z. They're younger audiences. Yeah. I mean, you start thinking about Manny Pacquiao. You start thinking about Mayweather. I think Pacquiao's 42. I think Mayweather's 44.
Didn't he just lose?
Yeah, Pacquiao. Yeah, he did. Which was unfortunate. But I think he might run for president of the Philippines, from what I hear.
He probably will win.
And he probably will
win.
And I tell you, man, if anyone deserves it, everything that I've read about, I don't know him personally, but so what I've understood from the marketing aspect of boxing, and I'm always going to speak from the hip. University of Texas, I studied marketing. I was the kid that basically collected Pokemon cards and basketball cards growing up, and the entrepreneur before it was cool situation, I like to say. But from what I've understood to be the median age of boxing in the audience is around 40 years old. Right. And if there's a way to influx a different target market besides the 40-year-olds that in fact is more of a 20-year-old in Gen Z frame, I'm in Gen Y. Right. If there's a way to target those, it then becomes the responsibility of the sport to educate that following. And this is indicative all across society. Right. I mean, when Joe Rogan, who's obviously a famous podcaster, everyone will recall that name, the JRE Experience. He came to Austin, and when he has Lex Friedman on talking about Neuralink, and when he has aliens, and he's got Bob Lazar. Oh,
I watched that one the other day.
Crazy,
twice.
Right?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I love that type of stuff.
Doesn't that make you want to learn more about the subject? Yeah. And become more educated on what's being discussed? Well, couldn't that same thing apply to boxing and what's happening to these lower aged followers in different demographics? Can't we take them and can't we educate them? I mean, if I were in the boxing professionals of marketing, I would do my best at this point while the audience is at the highest that it can to take those followers and have them be engulfed in boxing. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. With Judaism United, we found success with influencer marketing. We hired a guy named Jew Things. Who, what better than an Instagram handle that targets those of a Judaic background than the name Jew Things? Yeah. But we said, this guy's got 70,000 followers. We can work out some sort of economic arrangement that's feasible for us. Maybe we can have him make some posts or put on the story when he's attending to gain some followers. Why couldn't boxing do that? Why couldn't boxing have, some of the bigger influencers right now present different findings of the past of Mike Tyson, right, or Sugar Ray, or Muhammad Ali? Why can't we go back in the past and then bring that forward to Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury? I mean, they have a real big opportunity, and I think a lot of them are looking at it from the opposite end of the spectrum. Yeah, they're saying, what just happened to our sport? When in reality, they should be thinking, how can we take this following ship and capitalize for a sport that most likely needs it?
I get that, but how do you do that if the people that are dominating, talking about Jake and Logan, are only fighting people who aren't boxers?
Well, there's still
it's still a celebrity boxing match.
Right. No, and that's a good aspect because a lot of people are saying, well, you know, Jake Paul is only fighting ex-MMA fighters and those without even a boxing background.
Right.
And Logan Paul, there's some things with that Mayweather fight that seems questionable to us. But I still feel that there's a good opportunity and way to take all of the followers. I mean, look, Jake Paul's got, I think, 17 million Instagram followers.
Yeah.
Logan Paul's got 21 million Instagram followers. And I think that if you can leverage the social media channels correctly, which is the engagement at so high. I'm not on TikTok personally. I have a TikTok. I've never done TikTok, but I respect what's happening there. Mm-hmm. And if you can leverage the right marketing channels in a way that educates those types of followings, you can bring them to other things like Tyson Fury, or like Muhammad Ali's past, or you can have them check out some of the boxing historical figures and go to the right websites. Mm. You know, you still have that opportunity regardless of the people that they're fighting. I mean, I think that there were more than 1 million subscribers to the Logan Paul Mayweather.
Was that on Triller?
I think it was. Yeah. It was almost like a crowdsourcing, like grassroots, which again, you know, I don't know who all's familiar with what's happening with like the University of Arizona or the Arizona Bowl and how Barstool Sports is now the main marketer behind that. And their main aspect is crowdsourcing. But it's changing. And the way that we hit our target audience is changing. And boxing has a real chance to stay ahead of that curve.
Wow, that makes perfect sense. Because I was just looking at it from I mean, I'm 35, but I call myself old. But as an old person, like, this sport's not the same. That's how I was looking at it. But now that you say it like that, it makes perfect sense.
Well, in a lot of ways, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. But the times, they are changing. Yeah.
Okay, now, I want to get some trivia with you. But before we get into trivia, I had this question. I was going to say, what would you tell your younger self? Yada, yada. But you, my friend, seem very successful. So what would you tell somebody who is looking to do marketing or somebody who is in need of help of marketing in this day and age?
So I don't want to get too down the emotional side of things. But what I began to realize early on is that, and I talk about this a lot, is patience. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean patience, you're waiting for your vanilla frap at Starbucks. I mean patience as in, most likely you're going to live, I think the average age is 72 or 73 for a man. But I think if you're a healthy individual in America, it goes up to 80s. And it's time for us to realize that we have the longer parts of our lives living in the future. Mm-hmm. And what can we do now, even coming out of school? And when I came out of school, just to give some perspective, I was over $20,000 in debt. Mm-hmm. I was on my own financial well-being. I was providing for myself. And I was staring at a job that made only $30,000 annually. Mm. It was right after the 2008 bust. It was in 2011, the financial downturn. And I said, what are some of the things that I can be doing now that I can set up the foundation for the future? As you know, and as you've heard today, that birthed Red Ocean, which then birthed 512 Now, that then birthed Judaism United. I started Red Ocean with $0. Yeah. I mean, this is something that is real. And if you can get involved in something where you can support the community. I mean, how hard is it to attend your favorite rap artist locally for a rap show? How hard is it to go to an event that's free, right? Yeah. How often is it, my wife and I, what we like to do is some couple stuff during the week, right? How much does it cost me to meet up with a couple, 20 minutes driving at a restaurant? Right. You know, those are things that it doesn't cost too much financially, but we can establish a community behind of like-minded individuals. And those are some things that down my past that I was fortunate enough to have come to the realization of. And that way in my 30s, that those are things that I can capitalize on.
Wow. You ready for some trivia?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Are you sure?
Not at all.
Okay. When we come back, me and Scott will go down the path of some good old trivia brought to you by hypocritically acclaimed I am Moke. This is Scott. This is H2EG Backstage. We'll be right back. Welcome back to H2EG Backstage. I have my man Scott with me, and this is trivia time. And the trivia is brought to you by 512 Now.
Thank you.
Are you ready? Thank you.
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, I guess.
All right. I always try to make the first one easy. You're a marketing guy. I hope you know your advertisement history. That look on your face says you don't. But what was, and this is multiple choice, so I'm gonna ask the question, I'm gonna name it.
Got it.
What was the first toy to be advertised on television? A, Mickey Mouse, B, Mr. Potato Head, C, Barbie, D, Hot Wheels.
Why do I want to say Mr. Potato Head? I think I've heard that trivia before.
Okay, well, we're going with the answers that we're sure of.
Okay, Mr. Potato Head.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
That's correct. That is correct.
There you go. I feel like that was in one of my shout out to UT professors group that somehow brought that back from the memory bank because I was sure it was Mickey Mouse.
Who invented the first commercial popcorn machine? A, Charles Creeders, B, Edward Clough, C, Joseph McMillan, D, George Haynes.
And we were talking about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire earlier. I want to use a lifeline.
You have none.
I want to say C, McMillan.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Wrong. A, Charles Creeders. Come on.
Couldn't even spell that, let alone pull that out.
I feel you. All right. We are going to also, another multiple choice. Who is known as the father of rock and roll? A, Alan Freed, B, Little Richard, C, Elvis Presley, or D, Chuck Berry?
Well, I'm from Memphis, so I think I probably shouldn't miss this one. But I would say C, Elvis Presley.
And you're from Memphis, and it is D, Chuck Berry.
The King was where I went that one wrong. Yeah.
We are going to go, let's see. Oh, we have some multiple, okay. Multiple choice again. NBA player Anthony Allen, also known as the Grindfather, played this many years with the Memphis Grizzlies. A, 4 years, B, 5 years, C, 6 years, or D, 7 years. You're from Memphis.
Man.
Anthony Allen, Grindfather. How many years did he play? 4 years A, B, 5 years, C, 6 years, or D, 7 years?
And if I miss this one, a lot of my Memphis friends are going to be talking to me backstage. No pun intended, H2EG. But I want to say 7 years.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I was rooting for you on this one. I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Looks like my friend Jamie in the background is as well. I couldn't miss that one.
All right, now we're going to go to true or false. True or false? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located in Ohio. True or false? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located in Ohio.
I want to say false.
True. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located on the shores of Lake Erie, Cleveland, Ohio.
I think I'm hugging 50% right now.
LeBron will be mad at you.
Grade no matter how you skin that.
I know, right?
Yeah. No bueno.
All right. We're going back to multiple choice. This hooper was the shortest player to play in the NBA game. A, Spud Webb. B, Isaiah Thomas.
Muggsy Bogues,
C,
guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
now let me finish. C, Muggsy Bogues. D, Nate Robinson. We're going Muggsy Bogues.
Muggsy Bogues. There's a funny picture with him and Manute Bol out there in the world.
Oh,
And,
yeah,
you haven't
looking
seen that
crazy.
before, yeah. That is crazy. You got 7'6" with 5'4", I believe.
Now, this is just, you guys just know the answer. Captain America's shield is made out of this fictional rare metallic ore with energy manipulating properties.
Vibranium.
Yes, sir.
By the way,
Yes.
Black Panther is where Vibranium originated from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That was the
Super
first time
fun
I heard
little
about it.
factoid. Yeah. It's interesting how it's all related in the Marvel universe. Yeah.
What do you like more, Marvel or DC?
Gotta go with Marvel.
Yes, sir. Me too.
Yeah. DC recently with the Justice League was pretty cool and Zack Snyder's cut. But outside of that, I think Marvel and the budget they have.
I was like, is this whole movie supposed to be black and white? That's
It kind
what
of
I
is,
thought.
right? It's also a 4-hour plus movie.
I'm not a DC person, but I do like Suicide Squad too.
Okay.
was
Yeah, I can
really
respect
good.
that. I enjoy Suicide Squad as well.
All right, now let's go to NFL with this one. Another multiple choice. What Chicago Bears running back was known as the Galloping Ghost? A, Jim Brown, B, Walter Payton, C, Harold Grange, or D, Gale Sayers?
You know, I wanted to say A at first, but I think I have to go with B, Walter Payton.
C.
C.
Harold Grange.
Harold Grange. Yeah, I wasn't pulling that one out.
But he was in the 1920s.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have got that one
That was
either.
before I was alive.
All right. We're going to stay on multiple choice. Which pop singer wrote the Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is there? A. Elton John. B. Barry Manilow. C. Rod Stewart. Or D. Paul Simon.
And I can hear that in my head. Like a good neighbor,
State Farm is there.
Can you run through the multiple choice again?
A. Elton John. B. Barry Manilow. C. Rod Stewart. Or D. Paul Simon.
Again, I wanted to go with Barry Manilow, but I think I have to go with C. Rod Stewart.
You sure? Want to trust your gut?
I'd rather go back. Can I change it? I think I've already lost $1 million, but I'll go with B. Barry Manilow.
Final answer?
Final answer.
You sure?
Sure.
Correct. Correct. Final question. In the HBO series Game of Thrones, who is the king of Westeros when the series begins? A. Robert Baratheon. B. Eddard Stark. C. Tywin Lannister. Or D. Aerys Targaryen.
I'm going to kind of do this by process elimination.
Okay.
So I know that Targaryen isn't accurate because the last time the Targaryens were the kings it's going to be included in the prequel coming up. So I know it's not that, and I know it's not Lannister because the Lannister family didn't take hold until the end of the series.
Okay.
And then Eddard Stark, I'm giving up spoilers for all those, so I have to give a disclaimer. Eddard Stark didn't make it past season 1. Although it was in the beginning and became the Hand of the King. Mm-hmm. So I think I have to go with Robert Baratheon, A, which is also, I believe, the Mad King. That's
correct. That is correct.
Awesome. I think because of that now, I think I ended above 50%, but I'm not sure I passed still.
With that one you passed.
There you go.
I'll give you an 80. That
I'll
one you
take
passed. Scott, thank you for doing the trivia. Thank you for being here. Any shout outs anybody want to say was up to before we get out of here?
Absolutely. Sure. Shout out to Jamie Hightower, H2 Entertainment, H2EG. They're doing incredible things. Follow them on Instagram. Follow them on Facebook. 512 Now. If you'd love to be part of our community, we'd love to have you.
Now, is that 512now.com?
512now.com.
Okay.
Yep. Find us on 512now.com. If you have a Judaic background, JudaismUnited.com. If you'd like to be a part of Red Ocean, that's got a Facebook channel as well. And connect with us. We'd love to hear your voice. We'd love to be with you. I got a shout out to my wife who puts up with me day in and day out, Lacey Seymour.
Shout out,
Lacey
wifey.
Seymour Photography. She's incredible at what she does, event and wedding photography. And I'm very appreciative that she chose me to be her lesser half. We'll put it that way. Shout out to you, Lacey.
And shout out to me. Y'all can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Moke and Friends, my podcast. Make sure y'all follow H2 Entertainment Group and H2 Ent Group with the @ in front of it. And you will be able to find some pretty good interviews. Me and Scott, me and other people with H2EG Backstage. I'm Moke. This is Scott. Been a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
See y'all next time. Hey, Mom.